What's up YouTube? Welcome back to another edition of Coding with Robbie. As always, I'm your host Robbie, and in this video we're going to go from zero to hero in Unity's UI toolkit. So I'm going to teach you all the fundamentals, and at the end we'll do a couple sample projects. So the first one is going to be this pause menu right here, and you can open and close it and it looks amazing. You can switch items, you can go up or down, and then you can select something, and we're just going to log which one was clicked, but you could continue from there and do whatever you want to do. And then the second project is going to be this login screen right here. And on this one, you'll be able to enter your email address, you'll be able to enter your password, just like this. You hit login, it's going to log those values, and you can continue from there and send the network request or do whatever you got to do. So this is going to be a very long video, but by the end of it, you should be pretty confident you could build whatever you wanted in UI Toolkit. So if that sounds good, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll get right into it. Let's go. So UI Toolkit is Unity's new system for adding UI to your games, and it's really comprised of three parts. You have UXML, which looks like this. You have tags and closing tags, and things are nested, and you can define the structure of your UI. So hey, I got a section here with a button and text, and then another section with a field, things like that. And then you're going to use USS. This is the other part where you'll style your document that you defined like this. So hey, this button should be that color and be moved to the right, and you know, it should have this background color and things like that. And then you have C#, which is how you'll make it interactive. Hey, when I click this button, that should happen. When this updates, the UI should also update. Things like that. And if it looks familiar to you, it's because it's inspired by HTML and CSS, which is the language of the web. So if you've ever created a website, this will feel very familiar. So instead of HTML, we got UXML. Instead of CSS, we got USS. And it's actually all the same properties with some removed and a few extras. And you'll see, even if you click some of these, they just link to CSS documentation. So say I went here. This is a documentation for CSS. It's not even USS specific. So all the same stuff in here basically. And then we got the C# over here, which you'll learn about towards the end of this video. But yeah, so instead of using the UI elements that you would find in here, like image, toggle slider, canvas, instead of doing that, you're just going to render UI documents. So now let's get started by creating our first UI document. So I'm going to make a new folder. I'll just call it UI, and then I'm going to go within that folder and create a UI document. So I'm going to right click, go to create, find UI toolkit, and then click UI document. I'll call mine sample doc. And now we're going to open up this document. You can double click it, and it's going to pull up this UI builder window. This is the visual editor for UXML files. And here's the preview window right here, and then we got the hierarchy. And then all the elements you can add to it. So a visual element is just a box basically. You got list views, labels, buttons, toggles, foldouts, all kinds of stuff. So let's drag a box in. We'll get visual element, drag it in here. And then maybe within that box we have a label. So we'll drag that nested within it. And then below the label, maybe we have a button. And it's gonna preview it right here. And then you can actually style it in here too. So I could click the label, and you'll have UI for all the USS properties right here. So I could go, hey, maybe the font size is 24 pixels. And maybe the color is, I don't know, green. And then I can click the button and go, hey, this is a, maybe it has a gray background. Or a yellow background. I can go to the box and go, hey, maybe this has a, I don't know, a red background. And I can do that. And you can style it all in here. And we can just save that, and now we can render it within our game. So to do that, you're just going to right click over here, and you're going to go to UI Toolkit, UI Document. It's going to create it right here. We'll click it, go to the inspector, and you can select the asset right here. So we'll go to Source Asset and select our sample doc. And now it's rendering on the screen. And also in the inspector, you have these panel settings. And if you clicked into that, these are some settings for how it should render. So by default, everything's gonna be the same size regardless of screen. So 30 pixels is 30 pixels. I like it to scale up and down with the screen size. So you can change that right here. I'm gonna change it to scale with screen size. and now it'll scale depending on the screen size. So say it got smaller, the button would shrink with it. And let's go ahead and open this up in VS Code. So if we take a look at it, I'll go over here, go to that folder. Here's our document right here. And you can see it looks just like that example I showed you over here. So you got the UXML root node, and then you got stuff nested within it. So here's that box we added. Here's the background color we added. Here's that label and the button. And you'll notice that it inlines all the styles. So it puts it directly in the UXML file instead of in a separate style sheet. So we're gonna fix that right now. So let's go ahead and create a style sheet. So we'll go back to Unity, go back to that UI folder, right click, create, UI Toolkit, and this time we'll create a style sheet. I'll just call mine styles. And now we want to connect the style sheet to the sample document. So let's go back to the UI builder, and we'll click this little plus up here and go add existing USS, and then just select the file. So I'll attach it right there, save, and let's go back to VS Code. And you can see it added this line right here, which connects it. So now let's make use of this file. So we're going to copy all the inline styles over. So let's go ahead and open up the style file. And it's saying, hey, find all the visual elements on the page and apply whatever styles come within here, which there are none. So let's go to our sample doc, and we'll copy the properties right here from the visual element and just move them within here. We'll put each one on a separate line and indent. And then we'll go for the label and do the same thing. So this time we're not selecting visual elements, we're selecting labels. So we'll do open and closing brackets and then copy over the inline styles, which let me get word wrap going. They are right here. Let's copy these over. And then we'll do the same thing for the button. So hey, we're gonna select the buttons on the page, and we're gonna apply these styles right here. So paste that in and then save everything. And if we go back to Unity, it looks exactly the same, so it's working properly. So let's clean up this UXML file a little bit. So when you do it through the visual builder, it's gonna add a ton of extra attributes and stuff, which you don't necessarily need. So I'm just gonna clear out all this stuff I'm not gonna use and just get it down to the essentials. So there we go. We don't need this style. We don't need this tab index. And now it's a lot cleaner and more readable. So we have a problem. If we go to our style sheet, this says, hey, find every visual element on the page and make it red. And we might not want to do that for every single visual element. Maybe just one of them is red. So there's two other ways you can select elements, by class and by name. And I'll show you both of those. So let's go back here. Here's that visual element. Let's add a class to it. So we just go class is equal to quotations, and then we put the class names inside of here. So I'll just add a class called box to it. And then we'll go back to our style sheet. And instead of selecting by the element type, we're going to do it by class. And since it's a class, it starts with a period and then the class name, which is box. So now this says, hey, find everything with class box and apply these styles. And we'll do the same for the label and the button. So let's go to the label, and I'll just add class is equal to text. And then I'll go to the button and go class is equal to my button. And then we'll go back to our style sheet and do the same thing. So for label, I added class text, so period text. And for button, I added class period my button. Let's go back to Unity. Everything looks exactly the same. It's working good. So this is selecting by class, and you can also select by name. So classes, you can add as many as you want to the element. So I could have box, box red, box large, apple, banana, whatever you want. You can add as many as you want. You just add a space in between each one. For name, you can only have one, so it's more specific. So let's go here and go name is equal to maybe first box. And I'll save that. And now to select by name instead of class, it's a hashtag. So it'd be hashtag, and what did I call it? First box. And I could go, hey, the first box, maybe it has 20 pixels padding. go back, check it out, and now we have some padding there on the box. All right, so now let's try some fun stuff. So let's go back here, and we'll go to our box right here, and let's add another class, box green, and then we'll go to our style sheet, and we'll create that. So dot box green, and when we have that class, let's apply the style background color is equal to green. And now we have some conflicting styles. So up here we're going, hey, for dot box, make it red. And then right below we're going, hey, for box green, make it green. So which one is it going to be? If we go back, it's going to be green. And that's because green comes below the red up here. So if we reversed it, it would be red again. And there's rules of specificity here. So since for both of these we're selecting by just one class name, it would go with the bottom one. But say I went, hey, it has to have class box and it has to have box green. So to do that, you would do it just like this, dot box green with no spaces. And now this one's selecting by two classes, so it's kind of more powerful than just selecting by one. If we go back, it's gonna be red again. And now say we selected by the name, which is right here, let's just move it up to the top. Selecting by name is much more powerful than by class. So say up here I went background color is yellow. That's going to take priority over these class ones down here. And it turns yellow. You can also mix and match. So it doesn't just have to be two classes. I could go, hey, it's got to have name first box. It's got to have class box. It's got to have class box. What's the other one? Box green. And maybe it has to be a button. That's how this would look, how that would look. So you can get super fancy with your selectors. You can also go by parent. So say I went, hey, I want to find boxes that are within a visual element. To do that, you just put a space. So if there's a space between it, it goes, hey, find visual elements that contain dot box and then style those. So if there is no space, it's gonna be on the same element. If there's a space, it goes, hey, visual element, and then within there. So that's kind of the basics of selecting stuff. So now we're gonna start talking about USS more. So you've seen a few properties here like padding, background color, flex, grow. I'm gonna start covering these. I'm not gonna get all of them, but I'll get all the important stuff. So I would say the most important thing to understand is flexbox, which controls the flow of the page. So let's go back to our UI document and let's just create some example stuff. So I'm gonna get rid of this button. So I just have a box. I'm gonna get rid of this name. And let's just create 3 boxes. So 1, 2, 3. And you just fix the indentation. And then this one has box green. For this one, I'll go box yellow. And for this last one, I'll go box purple. And then let's wrap all these boxes within another visual element. So let's do one more, and this will just have class boxes. And then I gotta close it down here. So I got a visual element with class boxes with 3 boxes inside, and each one has a different class to apply a color. So let's go to our style sheet. We'll delete all this. And let's just go box green has background color green. And then we had box yellow and box purple. So let's go box purple, background color purple. And then we had, what was the last one? Box yellow, background color yellow. Let's see what that does. So we got 3 boxes, green, yellow, and purple. So now let's go to the parent of those 3 boxes. And let's play around with Flexbox. So for Flexbox, there's properties that go on the parent and properties that go on the children, which would be the boxes. So let's start up here on the parent. So by default, everything's gonna flow from top to bottom. So everything stacks on top of each other and works its way down. If you want to change that, you would apply the flex direction property. I'm actually going to change this to CSS so it suggests stuff. So flex direction, so by default it's set to column, which is top to bottom, but you could also do row, which is left to right. So now it's going from left to right. You can do row reverse, which is right to left. And you can do column reverse, which is bottom to top. So that's how you can control the ordering. You can also control the spacing. So let's set it back to row. And I could go justify content. And there's a few options here. So there's flex start, which is at the beginning of the element. So that's kind of how it looked already. We can do flex end, which will move it to the end. You can do center, which will put it in the center. And then there's some special ones. You can do space between, which will space them out evenly and put all the space in between them. And you can do space around. I think that's it. Let's see. Yep, space around, which will put some space on the outsides of them also. You can also do another property called align items, and this will control it on the opposite axis. So we can go, flex start is what it's set to already, doesn't make a change. We can go flex end, which will move it to the bottom. And we're actually not going to see a change because that boxes element is the same exact height as those inner boxes. So let's add a background color here so we can see it. So we go background color is beige. So yeah, it's on the bottom, but you can't see it because they're the same height. But say I added height to this, I went height is 500 pixels. It'll move it to the bottom. And then if I changed it to flex start, it'll be at the top. And then if I do center, it'll be in the center. And then there's some special ones. You got auto, which I don't really know what it does. It moves it to the bottom. And then you got stretch, which will make the element stretch the entire size of the element like that. So that's on the parent, and then you can also do stuff on the children. So let me change this back to flex end. So look, on all of these we have align items flex end, but maybe this yellow one I want it to be flex start. I could control that on the child also. So I could go flex, what is it? Nope, it's gonna be align self. And I could go flex start, and that goes, hey, for this one, actually do flex start. And then if it was CSS, you also would have justify self, but that doesn't exist in USS. And then one other super important property you'll want to remember is the flex property. And it's basically a way to control the width or height of the elements. So we're in flex direction row, so it's going to control the width. But I could go flex 33%. And it's going to make the green box 33% of the parent. And then I could go to purple and I could go flex, 100 pixels. It'll make it 100 pixels wide. And you could actually do width and it would work exactly the same. So I go width and you won't notice a change at all. But what's cool about the flex property is that there's a special one where you just go flex 1. And this just tells it to fill the available space. So it'll take all the extra space and assign it to the yellow one. Say we had flex 1 on 2 of them, it would split the space between both of them like that. And say this was actually flex direction column like that. And then let's give it a height also. Let's go height 500 pixels. And now it's going to do the same thing but vertically. So it depends on what you have flex direction set to. So remember the flex property, it's very important. That's kind of the basis of Flexbox. So let's get rid of that and let's just bring everything to the top left again. And why is it stretched? Let's go align items, flex start. So I guess stretch is the default one that it's set to. There we go. So now by default, everything's kind of gonna adhere to that Flexbox stuff, but you could actually break out of that. And to do that, you'll change the positioning system. So I could go to box yellow here and I could say, hey, let's do position absolute. And that's gonna change it to kind of a coordinate system where you define the exact position it should go. So position absolute, and now you can do things top, bottom, left, or right. So I go, hey, let's go 20 pixels from the top and 60 pixels from the left. And we'll go back. And now it's 20 pixels from the top and 60 pixels from the left. And it's behind the purple one, and that's just because it comes first in here. So if I moved it down, it would be on top of it. Like that. And the position absolute is relative to the parent. So say I moved this box down 100 pixels. So margin top 100 pixels. Now it's 20 pixels from the start of this element, not the start of the document. So just keep that in mind. So that's positioning. And then, yeah, you've seen background color. And you can do kind of a color variable. There's a bunch of them. Or you can do a hex. So you go FF1234 like that. So you can pretty much do any color you would ever want. And you can also do RGB. You can do RGBA, which allows you to add transparency. So this would be a 50% translucent blue box. And I made a mistake. So you can see the errors in here. If you go here, it goes, hey, unexpected error occurred. So that's not very helpful. Let's see what's going on. I mean, it looks okay to me. I don't see any errors. Let's go back. And there it is. It's working now. So let's clear that out. So yeah, that's background color. For text color, it's just color. And it's the same thing. You can do hexes, RGB, color variables. You've seen height, and you can define it in pixels. You could also do percentages. So you go 33.333%, it would be a third of the screen. You can do the same thing for width. So I could go width is 200 pixels. Now it's 200 pixels. I could go 33%. It'll be 33%. So let's see, we did color, background color, flexbox, width, height. Let's see what else we got in here. So let's go to the property reference, which will be linked in the description. So we did these, we did background color. I'm not gonna get into background images right now. There's border radius is kind of cool. So you go on box screen and go border radius. I'm gonna go 20 pixels. And now the corners of that box will be rounded 20 pixels. What else we got? You can do borders. So say I want to add a border to that element. I could go border width is 10 pixels. Border color is orange. And now if I go back, it's got a border on all sides. You can also do one side. So I could go border top color and border top width. And now it'll just be on the top. So now let's talk about margin and padding. So here's what we got so far. Let's go to this yellow one right here. And say I did margin left, 40 pixels. It's gonna add a 40 pixel space to the left of it. So margin is on the outside and padding is on the inside. So say I change this to padding now. It's gonna be on the inside of the element instead of the outside. So now it's yellow there. And that's the same as a border. You can do top left, bottom right. And if you leave it off and just go like this, it'll be on all the sides. And say you just had two values. That's top, bottom, left and right. And if you had 4, I think this works in USS. Let's see. Yeah, it does. So it goes top, right, bottom, left. All right, what else do we got? Color we did flexbox stuff, we did left, margins, max height, max width. We'll cover that later. Transitions are going to be helpful. We'll see that later on. Let's talk about transforms. So you can do rotate, 45 degrees if you want to rotate stuff. Now it's rotated. You can do translate, which will shift it. So I could go translate and then give it an X and a Y. So say I want to move it down 20 pixels, or sorry, say I want to move it left 20 pixels and down 40 pixels. So X and Y. And you could also do percentages. So say I did 100%, it's gonna move it down 100% of this element's height. Like that. And I could also do the Y. And you can't see it, it's behind that label, but it's down 100% and right 100%. What else we got? There's some kind of Unity specific stuff that doesn't exist in CSS. So say you wanted to change the font. Let's find an example of that. Wow, it doesn't even show it in here. Right here, Unity font. I could go up here and go, hey, the font, and you're gonna give it a URL similar to this. So it starts with project : / and I go, hey, it's in assets / UI / custom font.ttf or whatever it is. And we'll play around with that a little later. It might have to be in quotes, I'm not sure. We'll find out later. And that's kind of all the essential stuff, I would say. You got opacity if you want to make things transparent. So maybe I want it to be 30%. I could do that. So now it's only 30%. And I'm kind of just going on here. Let me see if there's anything else. You saw width, there's word spacing. So I would say that's the essential stuff. And you'll learn all these extra ones over time. And if you're ever not sure, you could always just switch to that UI builder and play around with it. All right, so now let's talk about some of the C# basics, and then we will get to building some real UI. So let's go ahead and clean this up again. I'll leave the structure how it is. Let's get rid of some of these styles. So let's get rid of everything except flex direction, everything except background color. Just like that. And if we go back, now we just got those 3 boxes again. So now let's create a C# script. Let's go within our UI folder here. I'll right click, create. C# script. I'll just call it sample doc manager. And then I'm gonna go ahead and attach that script to our UI document up here in the hierarchy. So let my computer update for a second. Let's drag it on. And then let's open this up in VS Code. So here we go. So the first thing we gotta do is get reference to that UI document. So let's go up here and we'll do a serialized field. And it's gonna be private, it's gonna be a UI document, and we'll just call it UI doc. And then instead of start and update, I'm just gonna do on enable. And then we're also gonna need to get the root element of this document. So to do that, create another variable, private. It's gonna be a visual element, and we'll just call it root L. And then in this on enable, we'll go root L is equal to UI doc dot root visual element. So now we have reference to that element, and you'll see how this is handy in a second. So let's go back to Unity and let's go to that script we attached, or the component I mean. So click in, inspector, it's right here, and for UI doc, let's select it. And then let's go back in here and let's do some stuff. So the first thing you gotta learn is selecting stuff. So right here we have the root element. Say I wanted to get box green within there, I could go like this. Root L, and then you do dot query. And then by default, if I just put in here poop, it's gonna select by name. So this would look for an element, a visual element within the root element that has name poop, which doesn't exist. Say I wanted to select by a class name, I would go class name and go dot box. And this is gonna grab all of the boxes on the page, so all 3 of them. Say I just wanted to get the first one, I could go dot first. Say I just wanted to get the second one, I could go at index and go 1. And yeah, there's also some shorthand. So if you just did .q, it's gonna automatically grab the first one. And yeah, say you're not selecting a visual element. Say we're getting, you know, maybe this text right here, which is a label. Well, then you have to declare what it is right here with little brackets and go, hey, it's a UI label. Actually, it's just label like that. And we're looking for text. So there we go. And if you want to loop through a bunch of them, so say we had query again, and we're getting all the boxes. We can convert this to a list. So we can go to list. And then let's set this to a variable. Let's go, it's going to be a list of visual elements called boxes. And I get a bug here. It's saying, hey, those are visual elements, not labels. So we can actually just remove this. And now this is a loopable thing. So I could go for each, and it's going to be a visual element, which we'll call box in boxes. And now it's going to loop through all the boxes which we selected right here. So maybe for each one we want to add a class, right? We go box, and you have add to class list, and you can just put the class you want to add. So maybe I want to add BG orange. So now this is going to loop through and add that class to each one of those boxes. So let's create BG orange in here. And when that class exists, it'll add background color orange. So going back, let's go ahead and try this. If we go back, it's going to refresh for a second. And everything's still going to be its own color, but if we play the game, it's going to run that script, which would change everything to be orange. And it didn't work. So what's going on here? So we're getting all the boxes. So right here's my mistake. I put a period there, which it doesn't got to be there because we're specifying that it's a class right there. That was my bad. If we go back, it's going to refresh. And now everything's orange. So maybe we want to change the text of the label that's within the box, right? So now I could select by box. Let's go box, and we're going to query. And this time we're going to be getting a label. And we're going to be looking for class name. And the class name we're looking for is text. We can go text in there. And now we got that label. Let's assign this to a variable. And this is going to select all of them. We just want one, so I'll change this to a Q. And then I'll go label text is equal to. And then we got reference to that element. And now we could do stuff on that. So I could add classes to it, or I could change the text within it. To do that, you go text dot text. That's a little confusing. So let's just change this to something different. Label 123. And then we want to change the text property on that, which you can see is right here. And I want to go, hey, it's equal to, and just go box. So go back, it should change the text on all the boxes. It's working good. And yeah, so we got selecting stuff. We got getting the root visual element and reference to the document. Adding classes. You could also remove classes. So box.remove from class list. BG orange. If I wanted to change the name on something, I could go label 123.name is equal to new name. And that's the main stuff you'll be doing. You'll also be wanting to build stuff from C#. So maybe we want to build some additional boxes. How would we do that? Let's create a new function. So we'll go private. It's going to return a visual element. I'll call it build box. So let's build a box with C#. So I'll go, hey, visual element box is going to be equal to new visual element. And then I got to add some classes to that box. So I'd go box dot add the class list. And I want to add background or box green. And then I want to add a label within that box. So let's create a label now. So this time it's not going to be a visual element. It's going to be a label. And we'll call this label. And then right here, it's going to be a new label. And since we're creating a new one, we can actually just put the text right in here. So my special box. And then we got to add a class to that too, right? So we can go label.add the class list. And I'll add text to it. And then this also is going to need the box class, which we forgot to do. So let's also add box. And then let's add this label to that box. So to do that, you go box.add, and then you just pass it what you want to add in, which is our label. So we're creating a box, adding some classes to it, creating a label, adding a class, adding the label to the box, and then let's just return the box. So now we can go back up here, and let's go to our root element, and let's just add some boxes. So let's go add. And we're going to be adding a box, so let's build one. And that should add a box to our document, so let's try it out. And there we go, we got that special box. And the reason it's not next to these ones is because I added it to the root. I didn't add it within this boxes one, which is what sets them from left to right. And then one last thing I wanted to show is adding events to things. So let's go back to the documentation, and this will be linked in the description, and you can add events to stuff. And there's a bunch of different events like click, mouse up, mouse down, mouse over. There's a bunch of them. So let's try adding a mouse down event to something. So let's copy this line right here, and let's go back to our script here, and maybe we will add it to, let's see. Let's just add it to each one of these boxes that we're looping through. So let's go to the bottom and let's paste in that line. And instead of clickable label, let's do it on our box, which comes from right here in the loop. We're going to register a callback, and it's going to be a mouse down event. And then right in here, we can just put the function that we want it to run. So we're going to create one. We'll call it box click. And it's going to say, hey, that function doesn't exist. So let's go quick fix, and let's just have it make it for us. Now where to put it? Right here. So now when someone clicks one of those boxes, we'll just debug.log. And let's go clicked the box. Save that. Let's go back and try it. It's going to refresh for a second. I got my console pulled up down here. And now these three boxes should have it. So now mouse down and it shows it. So now when I click, it's going to log something. So that's how you can add an event. You'll have to look up all the different ones there are, but probably clicking is one of the most common ones. And yeah, I'd say that's the C# basics. So now we're going to get into building some real stuff, and this is really where you'll see how everything comes together. Alright, so now we're going to put it all together and build some real UI. So I'm not much of a designer, but I mocked up this pause menu right here. So we got a top part, a bottom part, and some menu options in the middle. And how I'm imagining it working is when you hit pause, the screen will fade dark a little bit. This top bar will slide down from the top, the bottom will slide in from the bottom. And then these menu options will kind of fade in, and the first one will be pre-selected. And I put these starter files in GitHub, it's linked in the description, but I just have an empty project here. I just threw a static image just so it's not completely empty. And then I included some fonts right here. It's going to be using Roboto Condensed. And then I threw a couple images in here that we're going to need. So that's what you'll be starting out with, and let's get right into it. So what do we got to do first? We got to create some files. So let's create a new folder. Just call it UI. We'll go inside there. We'll create a UI document. So create UI Toolkit UI document. And it's going to take a minute. I need a new computer. It's pretty slow. Let's just call this pause. And then let's create some styles. So right click, create UI Toolkit, style sheet. And we'll just call this styles. And then we'll create a C# script. We'll just call that pause manager. And then let's go ahead and open this up in VS Code. So I'll just double click the C# script to do that. It's going to open up. I trust myself. And let's take a look at what we got. So if you look at the UXML file, it's going to look like this by default. And it's missing some attributes in here. And how you get those is just adding something through the visual builder. So let's open that up. UI builder, let's just drag something in and save. And then if we went back, you can see it looks a little different. It added some more attributes and stuff that make the UI elements work in here. So let's attach that style sheet real quick. So let's go up here. We'll go add existing USS, select the file, and we're all connected just like we did before. So let's go back to the mockup and start building this thing. So let's start with this translucent black background that you probably didn't notice. But if I click into it, and I can just toggle it on and off real quick, you can see it kind of darkens the screen so it kind of stands out more from the gameplay. So let's start with that. Let's go here and we'll just do a visual element, which we already have one right here. So let's just add class, and we'll give class overlay. And then instead of a self-closing visual element, let's open it up and we'll add a separate closing tag, which would look just like this. And now let's go to our style sheet and select it by that class, which was .overlay. And then we'll just go height 100% so it takes up the full screen, and we'll go background color, and we're going to do a translucent black, so we'll use RGBA, and black is 000, and then the last value is the transparency, so let's go 0.4, which would be 40%. And let's go back and render this on the screen now. So I'll go to Unity, I'll right click up here, UI Toolkit, UI Document, and I'll just call it pause. And then I'll go to the inspector and select the source asset, which is pause. And there we go. Let's also go into panel settings and set it to scale with screen size. And let's start building the sections out now. So we have a header, a middle section, and a footer. So let's go back in here. And you'll see we're going to use visual elements for almost everything. So you can build your whole design basically with just visual elements. But let's put a nested one inside here. And we'll call this sections. And then we're going to have 3 sections, so let's go inside there. And we'll have header, which is the top part. And then for the middle, I'll call it body. And then for the bottom, I'll call it footer. There we go, let's start styling these up. So let's go back to Figma. And you can see these are exactly 80 pixels. So let's go in here, and we'll just go .header. Height is 80 pixels. And for background color, we'll just go number 11111. And then it has a border on it. So let's go back to Figma and check it out. So here's the color right here. And it is, let's see, 3 pixels. So let's go border bottom width, 3 pixels, border bottom color. And let's get the color. So it is F6C443. So F63443, is that right? Nope. It was F6C, I think. There we go. Let's go back and check it out. Now let's do the same for the footer. So if you did want to share styles and apply things to multiple elements at once, you can do that like this. So I could go, hey, .header and .footer. So you do that just with a comma, and now I can do stuff 2 places at once. So let's go height 80 pixels, background color, number 111111, border color. So since I didn't specify a direction, it's going to apply that color to all sides. And let's just copy it. F6C443, F6C443. And now I can remove everything except for border bottom width. If we go back, you can see it applied at both places. So now let's add border top to the footer one. So let's just clean up this white space, go to dot footer now, and this has border top width 3 pixels. Looks good. Now we gotta do the body section, and we want that to fill the remaining space. So if you remember, to fill the remaining space, you just do flex 1. And it won't work, and that's because sections doesn't have the full height of the screen. So to do that, let's do sections up here, and we'll just do flex 1, and that'll make it fill all the available space, which is 100% from the parent. There we go. So now let's start doing these menu items in the middle. So let's go back here, and we're gonna do another visual element in the middle. We'll just call it menu items. And then inside there, we're going to do each of those buttons, which will be another visual element. And we'll just call this menu item. And then we basically have to do 2 more visual elements for each menu item. So the first one is going to be this yellow capsule, and the second one is going to be the shadow behind it. So let's go and copy this. And the first one is going to be the yellow capsule, so we'll just do this menu item text, and then the next one will be menu item shadow. And we might have to put a label in here, but we also might be able to just put the text directly. So let's try that first. Let's go back, and I'm not seeing anything. Do I have an error? No. So yeah, I guess we need a UI label in here. So let's go UI label. Text is equal to settings, and that can be a self-closing one. We can get rid of this now. Let's see if that works. There we go. I can see settings right there. So now let's put these menu items in the center of the screen. So to do that, it's more flexbox. We just go to dot menu items, and we'll just leave that there for now. We actually got to go to dot body and go, hey, align items, center, justify content center. And now if we go back, it's going to be in the middle. Now let's design the buttons. So let's go to menu item text, and let's go background color, and it's going to be this hex again. Go back and check it out. There we go. Now we got to give it the right width and height. So let's see, this is 400 pixels by 54. So let's put the width on the parent. So let's go width 400 pixels. And then on the child, which is dot menu item, we'll go width 100%. And it's relative to the parent, so that would be 400 pixels. And then for height, let's do it on this guy down here. We'll go height 54 pixels. Go back and check that out. There we go. We got to center this text, so we can do flex again. We'll go align item center, justify content center. There we go. Let's round the corners, which is border radius. So let's go border radius, and then half of 54 is 27. There we go. Let's fix the font now. And let's see, it's going to be font size 29. So for that, we're going to do the label within menu item text. So we'll start with that, space, and then we want to get the label, and we want to go font size is 29 pixels. Here we go. Now let's do that custom font. So let me copy the snippet I have over here. And one thing I didn't show you yet is the star selector. And this is kind of the global selector. It'll apply these styles to every single element in our document. So that's kind of a good place to do the font. So I'll paste it in. And it looks like this, -unity font, and then URL, and then you put the path here, and it starts with project, / database, and then just the path. So if we go to ours, it's going to be assets, fonts, and then Roboto condensed bold. So let me copy that path. Go back here, just paste it, and then I'll replace all of this with the proper path, and that should work. There we go. So what do we got to do next? Let's go back to Figma. Let's do that shadow. So we did that as a separate element. So it's just dot menu item shadow. And then it's gonna have the same height. The background color is gonna be black. And for this, we can actually do position absolute. So we'll break out of that natural flow, because right now it's gonna stack below it. So let's do position absolute. And remember, it's relative to the parent, so we can actually just go height 100%, width 100%. Go back, there we go, now it's sitting on top of it. Let's round the corners, so border radius again. And there we go, it's the same exact side. So now let's put it behind the yellow part. So to do that, we can just flip the order of these. And there's nothing going inside of shadow, so we can just make that a self-closing one. So there we go. Go back, and now let's shift it down and to the right. So for that, we can just go, hey, let's try 4 pixels from the top and 4 pixels from the left. And it's a little, not enough. Let's do a little more. Let's try 6 from the top. There we go. That looks about right. And now we need multiple buttons. So let's copy that a few times. And a little bit later, we'll do it with C# instead. Let's see, body, menu items, and then here's each menu item. So add some spacing. We got settings. What's the next one? I think I did resume and then quit. There we go. Now we got to add some spacing. So let's go to our UXML. And where is it? Right here. So we'll get not the top one, but the bottom two, and we'll add a class to both of those. Space top. And then we'll go in here and find menu item, and we'll go, hey, it has to have class menu item and class space top. And if that's the case, we'll go margin top. Let's try 24 pixels. Pretty good. Yeah, it looks about right. So now we have the selected version and we have the not selected version. So to do that, first let's copy this and just change all the buttons to be white. And the color for white is FFF. Go back. And then we gotta make the text a little lighter. We'll do that in a second. Let's add an active class to the first one. So menu item. And then we'll have menu item active. So only this first one has that active class. So then we'll go down here and we'll go, hey, if it has .menu item active, and then inside of there we want to get .menu item text. So if it has the active class, we want to go down to text and give it the yellow background. So if we go back, there we go. And then on these ones, we got to make it a lighter text. So let's see what that color was. 60. So we'll go up here. By default, it's going to be color 60. And then if it's selected, it'll be black. And for black, it's 000. There we go. That pretty much looks like our menu. Now we got to do this title text right here and the action thing in the bottom. So let's go up to the header and we'll just add a UI label in there. So up here, we'll go UI : label, text is equal to, pause menu. Let's go back. We got our text up there. Let's make it white. So let's go in here. We'll go to header. And then we want to get the label inside of header. And we'll go color white. Font size. And what's our font size? Let's see. Let me go to Figma. Font size is going to be 36. Let's go back. And now we just got to center it and add some spacing on the left. So for that, let's go to header. We'll go line item center. And that's the wrong one. We want to do justify content center. There we go. Let's add some space on the left. So we'll just go padding left. Let's try 24 pixels and see how that looks. Looks pretty good. And now we gotta do the action down here. So let's go down to footer. And it's gonna be another visual element, and we'll just call it action. And then inside of there, we'll have that little key. Let me show you in Figma, this guy. For that, we'll use a UI label. We'll just do E. And then we'll have a label next to that, which says what it does, which is select. Let's add some classes to these. So we got action key and action, I guess, desk for description. Let's actually put 2 of those. So we'll have select, and then we'll show that you can also escape to go back. All right, let's check that out in Unity. So it's hard to see, but it is right there. So now let's move it to the right. So let's go to footer and go align items, flex end. Let's see if I got it right this time. Yep, that moved it to the end, and then we want to put stuff side by side. So let's go flex direction, row. And now it should be side by side, which it moved it back here. So I did something wrong. What are all these? We can get rid of that. Align items, flex end, flex direction row. So we changed it to row mode, so it flips the axes. The axes, is that the word? I don't know. But now this has to be justify content. Go back, there we go. Now it's there, and we also got to center it. So let's go align items, center. And I messed some stuff up. Let's make it white so we can actually see what's going on. Now we gotta put those side by side. So the parent of action is footer. So footer should have flex direction row, which it does. Let's get rid of that stuff real quick. Why is it not side by side? Footer. Those 2 actions should be on the left and right of each other. What's up with that? Flex direction row. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's just get styling those actions. So let's go dot action, and this is gonna be flex direction row. And that should put the key and the text left and right of each other. There we go, and it looks like it fixed that other problem for us too. And now let's style the key. So let's go to action key. We'll go background color. It's gonna be number FFF. There we go. On footer, let's go and go line item center again. And then justify content, flex end. There we go. We need to add that space on the right. So let's go padding right 24 pixels. There we go. Let's make the text within the key black. So let's go color black. There we go. Let's check out the font size on that. It is, I can't get to the text. What is it? Not that, this guy right here. We're just gonna have to guess. Let's try font size 20. Okay, and then let's add some padding on the left and right. So the first value is top and bottom, second is left and right. Let's try 12 pixels. That's a little much. Let's try 8, and we'll also add some border radius. We'll just go 4 pixels. Okay, now we gotta center that text, and this is one of those special Unity ones that I'm gonna have to look up. So let's go USS reference properties on Google. And here's the document, which will be linked in the description also. And then for this, we gotta go down to the bottom, these special Unity ones. Let me make this full screen. And it's Unity, is it font style? No. Unity text align. And the one we want is upper middle center. There we go. Let's go here and set it to middle center. Go back. And now it's centered. We need a little padding on the top and bottom. So let's try 4 pixels. A little less. Let's try 3 and maybe lower this to 6. That looks pretty good. Now let's do the text next to it. So that was action desk. Font size, let's try 18. We'll add the same text align thing. That looks pretty good. Now let's space those 2 out. So for that, we can just go margin left. Let's try 24 pixels. There we go, that looks pretty good. So now we gotta do these gradients on the top and bottom. So for that, you're gonna use background images. And that's another one I have to look up to remember how to do it. So let's go back here. Let's go to background image. And it's one of those where they just link to CSS documentation. So it should be the same kind of as this font. So let's go here. We'll go to header. Instead of Unity font, we'll go background image. And then the path to it is project, database, assets, images. And then let's see what my image is named. So I called it header gradient.png. Go right here, header gradient.png. And let's see if that did anything. And there we go, we got that gradient now. And let's do the same thing for footer. And for footer, I called it footer gradient. There we go. And just one thing to note is that it tiles by default. So my actual images are just 1 pixel wide, and it's going to automatically tile it. So that's why it goes all the way across. But if you did want to change that, you could go background repeat. And you could do repeat X, repeat Y, or no repeat. So if I did no repeat, interesting. It didn't make a difference. Get rid of those warnings. Background repeat, no repeat. Why is it not working? I don't know. Normally that would work, but it's not working, so don't worry about it. All right, so we pretty much got our menu laid out, and now we got to start thinking about how it should open and close and how you can interact with the items within the menu. So to do that, we'll be using some C#, so let's get started. Let's go back to Unity, and let's just attach our pause manager script to the UI document, and then let's open it up, and let's get reference to that UI document. Let's go serialize field, private. It's gonna be a UI document, which we'll call UI doc. We're gonna need the root visual element, so let's go private visual element. We'll call that root L. And we're also gonna wanna get our top level visual element right here, which we called it overlay. I don't really like that. Let's change it to pause. And we'll also have to change it within our style sheet. So pause should still look the same. It does. So let's grab that also. So we'll go back here and we'll add another one right below. And this one will be called pause L. And then we gotta go ahead and grab these two within on enable. So let's get rid of this stuff. We'll do on enable, and we'll go root L is equal to, and it's gonna be UI doc.root visual element. And then we'll get the pause L. And for that, we have to go to root L, and we're gonna query. But since we just want the first one that matches, we'll just do .q. And we're gonna search by class name. And we're looking for a visual element with the class pause. So that'll go ahead and grab that. Let's go back to Unity now. And we just gotta select the UI doc in here. So let's go over here. We'll go and select our pause UI document. And now let's go back here and let's create some open and close functions. So let's go private void open and private void close. And how we're gonna do this is we can just toggle a class to hide and show it. So by default, everything's showing, so let's just change it to opacity 0 for now. So that's gonna hide it. Just let it update for a second. So now it's hidden by default, and then when we wanna open it, we'll just add class pause active. And we'll require both classes, so .pause and .pause active. And when that class is on there, we'll change the opacity to 1. So it'll be visible. So let's try that out. Let's go in here and go to our C#. And to open it, we'll just go pause L, add the class list. And the class we want to add is pause active. And we'll do the same thing for closing, except we're going to remove the class. So instead of add the class list, it'll be remove from class list. And then we can move this up to a variable just so we don't have to change it multiple places if we ever need to. So let's go private string active class. And we'll set that equal to pause active, and then we'll use it in here. What I call it, active class and active class. And then let's hook these functions up to some keys. So I'm just gonna do the old input way, but you'll want to use something more modern. But let's go inside of update. And then I have it pasted over here. Let me copy it. So if they press space, we'll open it. And if they press escape, we'll close it. So right here, this is gotta be escape. And that should hide and show it. So let's try that out. We'll go back here. Let it update. I'll hit play on the game. And now I hit space and it opens, and escape and it closes. So that's cool, but it's not very smooth. We really want it to look a lot better than that. So we're kind of going to handle each part separately. So these top and bottom ones will slide in from off screen. The background will fade in. And then these menu items will fade slide in. So how can we do that? Let's go back to our style sheet. And instead of changing the opacity on the entire thing, we'll just do the background color. So by default, it'll be 0000, which is invisible. And then when that active class is there, we'll do 40% opacity. And then that's gonna make it just come in instantly, but we can actually transition it, which will make it smoother. So let's go transition property, and we'll say, hey, we want to transition the background color, which is what we're changing. And then we'll go transition duration, and we'll say it should take 400 milliseconds. And that's going to transition the background. So let's try that out. We'll go back here, and let me just restart the game. And it's subtle, but you can see the background kind of fading in when I do press space, and then fading out when I press escape. So now let's handle the top and bottom. So for that, we're gonna slide it from off screen. So by default, it has to be off the screen. And to do that, we can use that translate property, which I showed you. So translate, the first one is the X, which we'll leave as is. The second one is the Y. So we wanna move it up off screen, so that would be negative 100%. And then we'll go transition property. And this time we're doing translate. And then transition duration, 400 milliseconds. And then when the active class is there, we got to change this back to 0. So to do that, we go pause active. And then we want to look inside there and find .header. And then we want to change translate to 00. And then we got to do the same thing for the footer. So let's copy all of this, and we'll go to footer, and I'll just paste it in. And this time for footer, it's going to come from the bottom, so this should be just 100%. And this has to be footer. And that should do the top and bottom. Let's try that out. So we'll go back. And I press space and they slide in and the background fades in, and then I press escape and it reverses. So that's kind of cool. So now we just got to do this middle section. So let's do that. Let's find menu items, which I have, where is it? Right here. So by default, we'll go opacity 0, and we'll slide it slightly to the right. So we'll go translate, and the X will be 40 pixels and the Y will stay in place. And then when the menu's active, so .pause active, when that's the case, we want to find .menu items, and then we want to go translate 0, 0 and opacity 1. And then let's add the transition properties up here. Let's go transition property. And this time we want to do multiple, so I'll just go all to keep it simple. And then we'll go transition duration, 400 milliseconds. And that should be good. Let's try this out. So everything's hidden by default. Let me just restart the game. I press space and it slides in all cool. So that looks pretty awesome. All right, so now we're gonna build these menu items with C#, and then we'll hook up the arrow keys so you can kind of go between them. So let's do that. Let's go back to our C#, and let's create another class or another function. We'll call it build menu item. And then for arguments, it'll take, I guess, the text that should go inside it. And we're actually going to return a visual element. I don't know why I put void. And then let's go back here and see what we actually have to create. So it's all of this. If you like ChatGPT, this is something that it's really good at. You can just send it this and it will write the whole function for you. But we're going to do it by hand today, so let's do it. So first we got to create this top level element. So let's go visual element. We'll call it menu item. It's going to be equal to new visual element. And then we got to add the menu item class. So let's go menu item dot add the class list, and we want to add menu item. And then only the first one's going to start out with active, so maybe we can add that as an argument. So we'll go bool active, and I think we can just set it to false by default. And now at the bottom here, let's just return our menu item so that red line goes away. And then yeah, if it has active true, we'll add the active class. So if active, then we want to add one more class, which is menu item active. So here we got the top level element. Now we got to create the shadow element. So we can copy this, and let's just call it shadow. And then we got to add class menu item shadow. So let's go shadow dot add the class list, menu item shadow. And that looks good for that one. Next up, we got the text element. So we'll create one more. We'll call it text. And for this one, we got to add class menu item text. And I actually used text already up there, so let's just call it text L. Text L. All right, and then we have a label within there, so let's do that. So we'll create another one. And this is going to be a label. We'll just go text L label, I guess. And then for the part over here, it's going to be a new label. And for the text, we'll put the text that gets passed into the function from up here. And now we got to add all these elements to each other. So menu item, and we want to add our shadow first. And then we want to add our text L. And then we want to add our label to the text L. So let's go text L this time. Dot add. And what do we want to add? We want to add text L label right here. And yeah, we just built this whole thing right here, so we can now get rid of that comment. And let's make use of this. So let's have this accept a list. So we'll go up here, we'll go serialize field, private, and maybe it'll be a list of strings. That's got to be lowercase, and we'll just call this menu items. All right, now let's go within Unity and add some. Let's go in here, we got menu items, and let's add settings. We'll add resume, and then we'll add quit game. Save that, let's go back. And yeah, now we're gonna loop through that and create a menu item for each one. So let's create another function. I'll just go right below update, and I'll call it build menu. And then we want to loop through those menu items. So let's go and get it. So it's menu items. So we'll do a for each loop. For each string called menu item in menu items. For each one, we want to build a menu item, which what was the function called? Build menu item. So that's some good naming right there. And then for the text inside it, we'll pass in menu item, which is a string. And I need a semicolon right here. And that will build one for each one, and then we got to add it to our list here. So we're gonna have to get reference to this element right here. So let's do that. We'll go back up here, create one, and we'll just call this menu items L. And then we'll select it in on enable. So this is menu items L. We're looking for .menu items. And then we're gonna use it when we build the menu. So let's go menu items L dot add, and we're going to add that element that we just built. And there we go. It should create a menu item for each one that we added within this list. So we should have 6 items when I hit play on this. So let's wait a second. It's going to update. Let's hit play. And we're gonna have those 3 that are hard coded in, and then it's gonna add 3 more. So I hit space, and it didn't work. So what's going on here? My list is still empty, so I must have did that when I had play going. So let's add stuff again. Let's go settings. Let's go resume game and quit game. Save and try it once more. And it still didn't work, and that's because I don't think we ran the build menu function. So we actually have to go to on enable, and down here we'll just go build menu. Now it should work. So let's go back, let it update. Hit play. Hit space to open it, and there we go, we got 6. So one thing we forgot is the bottom 2 are gonna have to have that space top class added to it. And then the first one's gonna need active. So let's go down here and let's just make a variable here to keep track of the index we're on. So we'll go current index will be equal to 0. And then it'll have the active class if current index is equal to 0. And then we gotta increment that. So let's go current index plus plus. And what I do wrong, this has to go within build menu item. So right there. So that should add the active class to the first one. And then we also have to add the space top to the rest. So let's go down here. And let's add another one called space top. And it'll be a bool. And then I guess we don't really need the default value there, so let's just get rid of that. And then down here, we'll go if space top. Then we want to add the class space top, I think we called it. Let's see. Yep. We got an error. Where's the error? Because we got to add that argument now, and that's going to be current index is not equal to 0. All right, let's try this out. We'll go back. It's going to update. We'll stop it, hit play. Hit space to open it, and now they're spaced. So now we can just get rid of those hard-coded ones. So now it's going to start out empty, and our script will add those menu items. Going back, there we go. And now let's make it so we can hit the arrow keys and kind of change the selected item. What are we at? Dang, this segment's already 18 minutes. This is going to be like a 3-hour video. All right, so let's do that. Let's go back here and let's just keep track of the selected element. So let's go private int selected index, and it's going to be 0 by default. And let's see, we'll have a couple functions, handle up and handle down. All right, so down is going to increase the index or loop it back to 0. So if selected index is equal to menu items dot count minus 1, well then we're already on the last one, so we got to move it back up to 0. So selected index is equal to 0. Otherwise, selected index plus plus to increment it. And then let's go to our update right here, and we'll just do the down arrow. So when someone presses down, we'll go dot, I don't know, yep, down arrow, and it'll run handle down. And then we actually have to change the classes, so we have to remove the active class from the current one and then add it to the new selected. So we'll make another function for that. Let's go private void change select selected. All right, that's what we'll call it. And then the first thing we want to do is remove the active class from the selected item, the current one. So let's go root l.q, and we want to find by class name, and we're looking for menu item active. And then we want to remove that class from it, so we can do it all in one line. Let's go remove from class list, and we want to remove this. And let's move that up to a variable. We might as well do it right. Let's go private string active menu class. I guess menu item class makes more sense, so we'll do that. Let's copy this, go down. So we're searching for that class. We're going to remove it, and then we're going to add it to the new one. So now we go root L, and this time we want to get all of the menu items, not just one of them. So let's go query. We're looking by class name again, and we're looking for menu item, and then we want to get the one at index, and we'll pass in our selected index, and then we'll add the class list and add that active class. And then this has got to run at the bottom of handle down. So let's see if I made some mistakes. Let's see if it works. We'll go back here. Go back, I'll press play. Open it up, I hit down, and there we go. We can go through them. So now let's handle up, which is just the opposite. So let's go back here, handle up. Let's just copy all this. And this time, if selected index is equal to 0, then we want to change it to menu items.count minus 1. Otherwise, we want to subtract 1 and then reselect the right element. And I think that's it. Let's try it out. It's not working, so I did something wrong. and I didn't hook it up to an input. So let's go back up here. And this time it's going to be up arrow, and it's going to run handle up. Go back, let it update. Open it up, and now I can go up or down. So now I guess if they press enter, it should do something, right? So let's add another one here. When someone presses key code enter, or what is it? Is it enter? Keypad enter. I don't know. If they press E, let's do it. I guess that's what it says in our bottom here, so that makes more sense. So yeah, when they press it, we'll do handle select, which is a function we haven't created yet. So let's go and close all this stuff. Let's add another one at the bottom. Private void handle select. And then we'll just create a string called selected item. And that's going to be menu items dot selected index, and then we'll just log selected item has been selected. Do something. And there we go. Let's try this out. Open it up, down, I click, and nothing gets logged, and that's because of Y. Let's see, we go up here. Oh, I was pressing enter, I gotta press E. So there we go. Resume game has been selected, do something. Settings been selected, quit game has been selected. And that's how you can hook up your menu. So this is really built for controllers or keyboard only. If you wanted to do your mouse also, you could add click events to each one of these. And you'd have to add a hover event, so when you hovered over it, it would, you know, change the selected index and swap the classes and everything. I find it simpler to just do one or the other. It's kind of tricky trying to support both, and the person could switch between both of them at any point. So just something to keep in mind, but I think this is good for our first project. All right, so now we're gonna build one more project, and I mocked it up right over here. It's just kind of a login screen. And the reason I did this one is because you'll have inputs, and you'll have to listen for inputs from the user, and then, you know, store that in your class and do stuff with it. So let's create a new scene and start building this guy. So let's go and stop, and I'll go to my scenes folder. Let's just make a new one, create, where's scene right here. We'll just call it login. Let's open it. And let's just drag in that image I used on the last one, which is right here. Let's just have that cover the whole view. Something like that. And yeah, let's create some new UI documents. So let's create a new one. And we'll call this, where is it? UI document. We'll call this login. And then we'll add it to our scene. So let's go create UI Toolkit UI document, and we'll select our login screen this time. And let's start building it. So let's go back to VS Code. We'll close all this. Now we're gonna open login, and we have to just drag in the first element so it fixes some of this stuff. So let's go to our UI builder. And let's go file open, and we want to open our login this time. And then let's just add that same style sheet. You could do a separate one, but if you're going to share styles, it might make sense to use the same file. So add that, and then let's start dragging in stuff. So let's just do a visual element. And I actually don't know how the inputs and buttons look, so let's just drag those in too. Where's input? Progress bar, drop down, text field. Okay, let's add one of those. Save it. Let's go back and see how it looks. So we got that text field, we got the button, we got a visual element and the style sheet connected. And if we go back here, the text field is really just made up of a label and then this Unity text input right here. So let's get styling this. Let's go back to our game view. Go in here and let's start laying it out. So let's go to the mockup. So we'll have that main class that adds, that's not the mockup, that adds the overlay. And then we'll have a nested box inside there for this part. And then we'll have another box in here for the content of that box. We'll have a UI label, the two text fields, and then a button for login. So let's go ahead and do that. So we got this main one right here. We'll just call this class login. And then inside of there, we'll have another UI visual element. And this one's going to be called login right, I guess. And we need a closing thing for that. So let's add it down here. Let's nest this stuff. And then we need another one for the content that's kind of centered. So this is going to be login content. And we need another closing tag at the bottom. Let's remove all this extra stuff they add. I don't really care about that. I'm going to delete all these extra attributes that I don't care about. All right, so we got the content box. Now we have, what's next? We have this heading text right there. That'll be a UI label. So let's go UI label. Text is equal to welcome back. All right, and then below that, I think we have the two fields, right? Yep. So we got our text field. Let me indent this stuff. This should be within login content. All right, and then we got the text field. The label will be email address. Filler text, I believe, is the placeholder text. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, that goes inside of it. So filler text, I want it to start empty, so I'll leave it empty. And then we need another one for password. All right, and then we have our button at the bottom. And then that's everything. Let's add some classes. So class, we'll just call this login heading. Email address class will be login email. Password class is equal to login password. And then button, the class is equal to login button. So there we go. We got our whole structure right here. We got classes added to everything. So now let's style it. So first let's check on it. Yep, still looks good. And let's go back. So let's go to our styles. And now this stuff's going to be exactly the same. So let's just also do comma, and it does the same thing for login. And it's going to be the same active class. So we'll go login dot login active. So there we go. Going back here, we can't see it because we don't have that active class. So let's just add it while we're developing it. So login active. And there we go. We got that overlay. So now let's do the box on the right hand side of the screen. Let's go to the bottom here. And that was .login right, I believe. Let's go background. It's going to be black. Color of the text inside will be white. Width will be 50%. There we go. The background color didn't work. I did background, which you have to do the full background color. There we go. We want the height to be 100% also. And then we want the content inside there centered. So let's go align items. Center. Let me change this to CSS. It works better. And we want justify content center. There we go. And let's get that nested div, which was login right. So login content. And let's just say the width of that will be 400 pixels. Going back, there we go. Let's push it to the right now. So another way you could do that is margin left and just put auto there and it will push it over. Let's add the border. So it's gonna be border left width, 3 pixels, and then we'll get that yellow color again from up here. Border color, yellow. And I messed up. Let's see what's going on here. I have an extra semicolon. Let's get rid of that. There we go. It's looking better. Let's do this label now. So let's go back. I gave that class login heading. So .login heading. And we got to go -unity. I don't remember it. How did we center the text above? Let's see. Unity text align. Let's grab this. Let's see what the font size is. I'll go back to Figma. It's going to be 40 pixels. Font size 40 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. We need some space below it, which is 24 pixels. So let's go margin bottom. 24 pixels. There we go. And now we want the label above it. So how can we do that? Let's go to our input, which was login email and login password. So .login email, .login password. And let's go flex direction, column. So I guess these by default are probably set to row. I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's see. Okay, it worked. And then we got style the label that's within there. So to do that, we're gonna get the parents and then we're gonna look for a label inside it. Since we can't add a class to those directly in our UXML file here, because it just shows up as one element. So we got the labels inside, and what do we gotta change in there? Let's see. That's not the mockup. The font size is gonna be 14, and we're gonna use a different font here. So we're gonna use the medium font. So let's change the font size to 14 real quick. And then let's go up and copy this guy. And this time we're gonna use the other font that's included, which is, let's see, fonts, Roboto condensed dash medium. I just change the bold to medium. Medium, there we go. Go back, there we go, that's looking good. So now we gotta do the input. So let's go back here and see what that is. If I open it up. So it's a text element. I think that's how you do it. So let's try it. Let's get both of these. And this time we're gonna try to get the text element inside it. I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but let's try it. So let's grab those and let's just give it a crazy background color to check. Let's go background color is equal to blue. See what happens. Okay, it worked, but there's kind of an outer part too. So let's try selecting by that name right there, Unity text input. Let's try that. Let's go hashtag Unity text input. Does that work? Okay, we'll style it on that. So let's get rid of this. The text element, we'll replace it with that. Let's get rid of padding, 0. Border width. I think we do have a border, so let's go 1 pixel. Let's check out Figma. And yeah, we got a border right here. And it's a translucent white of 15%. So let's go border color, RGBA, and then white is 255, 255, 255. And then for transparency, we wanted 15%. And I believe we have a border radius on there also. Let's check. Yep, 6 pixels. So let's go border radius, 6 pixels. Let's see what we got so far. And let's go to the game. We gotta change the background color to 09090909. So let's, instead of blue, let's go 090909. Okay, let's give it a different height. So what's the height on this? It's 49 pixels. Let's just round it up to 50. All right. Let's hit play so I can actually interact with them and see what the typed text looks like. All right, so we gotta add some padding on the left and right, and then there's this focus state on that, which we have to figure out how to change. So let's go here, let's go padding is 0 and 16 pixels. And how do we get that label? So let's try, I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's try login email :focus and then get the label. And when that's the case, let's make it color red to see if it works. I doubt it. I'm a genius, it works. So that's how you can control the focus state. So I'm just gonna keep it white. I don't really wanna change the color. There we go, we got that. We got the password. Let's change it on the password one also. All right, we gotta style the button down here. And you can't really tell when you're clicking on it, so maybe we'll change the border color when you hover over it. To do that, we could go down here. Let's copy this. And now, like you saw with focus, you can also do .hover, :hover. And then maybe when it's hovered over, the border color is white, or a little bit lighter. So let's go 40%, see how that looks. Yep, so now you can see we also want it so when you're focused on it, it stays that color. So we got a couple more right here. So get rid of hover and then put focus on these guys. Whoops, I'm used to my Mac. :focus. Let's see if that works. So I hover over it, it's lighter, and then I click into it and move away, it's still lighter. Nice. Let's do this button down here. .login button, border width 0, height, let's go 50 pixels, border radius 6 pixels. The background color will be that yellow, which I have up here. Let's add some space, really above password. We can just go bottom on both of those. So let's go to right here, email and password, and we'll add margin bottom. Let's go 20 pixels, see how that looks. Not bad. We gotta change the color on the button. So let's go color black, and the font size, which is 24. And that looks pretty good. We just mocked up that design we had right here. All right, let's hook this thing up. So let's create a new C# script. And I'll just call mine login manager.cs. It's gonna be a mono behavior class. We're gonna need access to that UI document. So let's go serialize field, private. It's a UI document. We'll call it UI doc. We're gonna need the root visual element. So private visual element root L. And what else are we gonna need? We're gonna want the email field, the password field, and the button. So let's do all those. So private, and this time it's gonna be a text field. We'll call that email L. We're gonna want the password, which is the same. And then we're gonna want the button, which is a button. So private button, button L. And now we'll grab all these and on enable. So let's go root L is equal to, and it's gonna be UI doc dot root visual element. We're gonna need the email L, which we'll get by querying on root L. So root L.q. This time it's gonna be a text field, so we have to specify that. And we're gonna be looking by class name. and we're looking for login email. Password's gonna be the same, so let's copy this. So password L, we're looking for a text field with class login password. And then we need the button. So it's very similar also. I'll copy the line. It's gonna be button L. This time we're looking for a button. So let's change that right there. And we're looking for login button. So there we go. We should have all 4 of these now. And then let's register a click event on this button L. So let's go button L dot register callback. We're gonna register a click event. And when someone clicks, we wanna run our run our function handle submit, which we haven't created yet. So let's have VS Code create it for us. There we go, it's right down here. And let's just log something to make sure it works. I'll just log, hey. There we go. Let's get rid of this and try it out. So let Unity update. We're gonna attach it to our UI document element right here. So let's go here and add login manager. For UI doc, we'll select the UI document, save it, hit play, and let's see what happens. So I hit login and I get hey. So when someone does hit login, you'll probably want to get the value of the email and password and then send a network request or something. So how can we get those values? Well, we have the elements right here, so you can just go email L.value, and that will be the email. So let's go string email is equal to that. And then we got string password is equal to password L.value. And let's just log both of those. So let's go email and password. Let's go back and see if it works. Let it update. We'll type some stuff in. I'll hit login and we can see it both there. So one last thing we probably want to do is conceal this, which I don't know how to do. So let's just look it up. So let's just look up Unity, text field, password, hide. Let's see if we get something. And it looks like you just go like this. So let's try it out. Let's go on enable. We'll go password L. And .content type does not exist. So let's go back and check the thread. Input field .content type. Password is an input field. Ours is a text field. Let's see what we got under password L. Is there anything like password? Oh, is password field. Let's see if that works. Let's go back, let it update. And there we go, it's concealed now, and we can still see it there. All right, so that concludes our second project, and this is gonna be the end of the video here. So I feel like we covered all the essentials. Moving forward, there's some more element types you can experiment with. But yeah, you should have a good grasp on how you can build stuff with UI Toolkit. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you work for Unity, send me money. If you work for a game company, offer me a job, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.